There's a point on the table about this very topic that absolutely has to be addressed, and that is the idea that Frollo is an unrealistic character. This is important to keep in mind during our exploration of his song. Now, I'm not just picking on Shafrillas here, because I've heard this many times from many different people. The claim essentially goes as follows. Frollo is unrealistic because he has people tortured, he's abusive toward women, he attempts to kill a child, and he persecutes an ethnic and religious minority because of his own political fanaticism. Now, maybe I'm being uncharitable here, but that's essentially the argument as I've heard it laid out. For the time being, all I have to say about this is, why don't you tell that to the person who inspired Frollo, Amon Goeth? Amon not only did all of those things, but was so realistic that he was a real person. It's dangerously ignorant to claim that people like this don't exist, because they do. Frollo, that the townspeople are cruel, as Frollo suggested, when they viciously humiliate Quasimodo in front of the crowd, but the hypocrisy comes through yet again in that Frollo callously allows his torment, proving that at the very least he's no better than they are. Frollo's belief that he's a sort of ambassador to God's will goes into megalomaniacal insanity, as we'll see shortly, and this brilliantly illustrates yet again how he's a direct contradiction of the humble messenger he pretends to be. Now, I don't know, mea culpa basically means my fault. And so, as I see it, these red-clad figures represent Frollo's consciousness, refusing his hypocrisy and confirming that, yes indeed, he is the one at fault for objectifying and sexualizing Esmeralda. Through his professed desires, we see a perfect contrast between heaven's light and hellfire. Quasimodo wants Esmeralda to be in a relationship with him, but he still accepts that, even if she doesn't want that, her friendship is still valuable and something that he cherishes. Frollo, on the other hand, sees Esmeralda as a sexual object that he wants to dominate and control like a commodity.
It's not my fault. If in God's plan, he made the devil so much stronger than a man.
This is the megalomania I was talking about earlier. Frollo starts off blaming Esmeralda for his perversion. Then he blames the devil, and finally blames God himself. This line is genius because it showcases that Frollo is so utterly unwilling to accept his own flaws that even as a self-professed religious Catholic person, he blames the very deity that he worships rather than himself. But my absolute favorite part, not only of this song but of this entire film, is right up next.
Protect me, Maria. Don't let the siren cast her spell. Don't let her fire sear my flesh and bone. Destroy Esmeralda, and let her taste the fires of hell, or else let her be mine and mine alone.
Two things. One, the shot of Esmeralda and the smoke of the fireplace is an amazingly creative and memorable piece of animation. But even more importantly, within the context of this film, Frollo's prayer was actually answered here. The guard, who's covered in this heavenly white light, tells Frollo that Esmeralda escaped the church and that no one can find her. This essentially gives Frollo a chance to let go of his obsession and return to his life as normal. It's literally exactly what he asked for only moments ago, for Esmeralda to either disappear from his life or to be his. This is such a masterful detail that's so easy to miss, but nonetheless it constitutes my favorite part of this entire film.
God have mercy on me, but she will be mine, or she
The problem with a lot of Disney villains is that they're usually at the echelons of society, but without motives that directly impact the people at the bottom, outside generic hardship that turns the land into Mordor whenever they're in charge. How many people can honestly relate to their uncle killing their father so he can take the throne? How many people can relate to being the victim of an evil sorcerer who steals their genie lamp? But in the case of Biggering, for example, everyone can relate to being screwed over by a corporation, whether it's because they work for them or because they're the victims of their callousness. And more pertinent to this video, how many people are the victims of abusive parental figures? How many people are the victims of oppressive fanatics? How many people are the victims of abusers of women? Frollo works because he's a kind of evil that's felt by everyone. He's the type of monster that's so real it makes people uncomfortable. And that's both the reason he's hated and yet so venerated as a masterful character. And Hellfire is the perfect encapsulation of all these things. It's a glimpse at someone in their most private moments and with their most disturbing thoughts. It's the true insanity that lies beneath the minds of people who are so thoroughly able to trick people into thinking that they're in control of their emotions.